Very good evening. Welcome to News & Co with me, Bev Turner. Tonight, while Michelle is off for half-term, now joining me until 7 o'clock, Chairman of Great British PAC, Ben Habib, and journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown, Joe Phillips. Evening, both of you. Now, don't forget you can get in touch at home this evening, gbnews.com/your say. GB News has seen a private letter that Sir Keir Starmer has reportedly sent to his cabinet saying that Labour must stop looking down on people who are worried about immigration. Does this mean the PM is taking the fight to reform, and can he appeal to those voters? Let's just have a look at this letter, guys, and the bits that we've seen from it. He says ministers had to stop looking down on people, Ben, who are worried about immigration, which is a message that he needs to get out to the public to have any chance whatsoever of winning back people from reform who are at the moment ahead on that particular debate.
Yeah.
It's safe to say.
I mean, I think the salient issue for politics today right across Western Europe, the United Kingdom and the United States is immigration. You know, as Suella Braverman said a couple of years ago, many people have reiterated since then, including obviously myself and most recently JD. I think you have to say Vance is the right way to pronounce it.
As opposed to Vance.
As opposed to Vance, yeah. Oh, I just think JD Vance, but anyway. And JD Vance said it was the seminal issue that, you know, we need to deal with. So immigration is right up there. And, you know, I think what leaders of Western civilization need to recognise is that any form of immigration, and this is going to make people's eyebrows rise, including Joe's, no doubt, but any form of immigration is an admission that you can't deal with issues in your own country on your own. When you take foreign people into your country, you should only do it if there's a need for your country to have those foreigners. In other words, you can't fill the need from within. And what we've done is there's been some ideological hijacking of the British governing class over the last 30 or 40 years in particular, where they've seen the taking on of vast quantities of foreign people into our country and then wrapping them in a protected blanket and allowing multicultural silos to exist, where there's division, frankly, within our society, as some kind of liberal, diverse advantage. And what we've done in the process is undermine our workforce, put undue burden on our public services, break the settled culture that the United Kingdom used to have, and create division right across society. And by the way, that doesn't make sense, what I've just said, division across society, because society requires a settled, integrated culture, and we don't have one. We've broken our society.
Joe, if Keir Starmer really thinks this, he talks in this letter about this example of a woman that he met in Oldham in Lancashire. He says she only felt able to raise concerns about young migrant men from Europe committing antisocial behaviour by convincing him first that she was not racist. He said, I think about a woman I met in Oldham who was worried about antisocial behaviour, and she had to start by saying, I'm not racist, but...
Yes.
If he thinks this, why doesn't he say it publicly? Why are we having to see it in a leaked letter?
I think these are conversations that are going on right around the world with the liberal, centre-left, whatever you want to call them. You know, whether it's the Democrats in America who lost absolutely comprehensively, whether it's the rise of the far right, and I hate those labels, by the way, but, you know, for shorthand purposes across Europe. And I think it's sent the shockwaves through that sort of centre ground, if you like, of which the British Labour Party is part. And I think it is a recognition that that sense of we know best, we have ignored the genuine concerns of people. So, you know, it's fine, but you can't keep, you know, personally, I don't think, I know Ben would disagree because he always bangs on about it, but I don't think immigration is number one priority. I think the economy is the number one priority.
They go hand in hand,
well,
though,
they may
Joe.
well do. But if you said to somebody, what is the biggest thing, I bet most people are worried about how they're going to pay the bill.
There are 7.2 million people on universal credit, and they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for unbridled, virtually unskilled immigration.
It is inevitable on an island that you are going to have people from different countries and different parts of the world coming. You're also going to see more people leaving their homeland because of climate change, which I know you also have a bee in your bonnet about.
The unbridled form of legal and illegal migration taking place across Western civilization has nothing to do with climate change. It has everything to do with an ideological experiment at the expense of nation-states in the pursuit of the false goal of some kind of liberal utopia that will come about for the globe through governance for the globe.
I think it is not in any sort of malevolent sense. I think it is people wanting to be tolerant and welcoming.
It is malevolent. It is malevolent to the British people, because when you take in such vast numbers of people from different cultures, you undermine our ability to work and earn a fair wage for that work in the United Kingdom, and you undermine our culture. I just want to say one other thing. Starmer is so hypocritical. On the day that he's advocating that his colleagues should be concerned about immigration, he's busy signing up to more freedom of movement with the European Union.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We've got a letter here where he's telling his cabinet, don't talk down to people on this, empathise with them. It's OK to say that some people shouldn't be here. But at the same time, his actions are not reflecting.
They're not consistent.
Well, it feels a little shallow.
I think there are 2 points here. One of the things that he says in this letter, if this is indeed is true, he says pure economic migration was confused with genuine concern for those fleeing persecution. We ended up treating all immigration as untrammelled good. Now, I think that's important. I mean, I think there are several things to unpack here, Bev. One is the fact that actually it is quite right that other parties are taking reform seriously. They need to be. And it's no good pretending that if you ignore them, they will disappear any more than the Greens will, or the Liberal Democrats, actually. And we may talk about farming later.
Yeah.
And, there are an awful lot of new Labour MPs who are suddenly facing the wrath of farmers and the reality of life in the rural parts of Britain. But I don't think he's being hypocritical. And I think, as we move on to this week, which has seen utter turmoil, thanks to those puppets of Putin in the White House, we actually...
Which we will also be banging on about in a little while.
But we need now to reset our relationship with Europe, which doesn't mean necessarily rejoining or anything like that. But Europe is where our future lies, because it sure as hell doesn't lie with the Americans.
Let me take
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't disagree more. You look across Europe...
That's why they've got us on, Ben.
One of the reasons we've got this unbridled immigration, one of the reasons we're suffering with this problem is because Europe has literally taken down its borders in the pursuit of its another ideological aim for the doing away of nation-states and a federal Europe. If they had borders between France, Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, and all other EU member countries, instead of this stupid Schengen zone, which is daft as brushes, you'd actually have the opportunity to stop illegal migrants at every single juncture.
The burden on trade and travel and
so you just give up the security of the continent in the pursuit of some cheaper goods? Well, it makes no sense. And there's nothing good worth buying coming out of Germany or France at the moment, as far as I'm concerned.
Bending over backwards to try and wiggle around the tariffs that Trump may impose.
Let me just bring you to one other phrase from this letter that I thought was quite chilling. I know, because this is this is a bit of an exclusive for us this afternoon. Starmer says, what started with good faith paternalism has too readily become looking down on people. I don't want a government to be paternal.
No, I want them to respond to
I'm not a child.
Absolutely right.
Don't behave like you are my father.
But that's what he's saying.
But he says it started with good faith paternalism. Like, that is a good thing to be paternal to your population. No, don't treat me like a child. Don't be my parent.
Absolutely
Beverly,
right.
I completely agree with you. But, there are surveys that have been done in recent weeks that show young people, they actually don't think elections are worth bothering with. They want a strong leader, even if that means a dictator or a military leader.
Yes, you're right. I did see the results.
There are...
But shouldn't he then be saying to these young people, you don't want that. You don't want us to be... You don't want to be a dictatorship. You don't want me to be your state's father. You don't want the state to take responsibility for everything you do in life. Be an individual, look after yourself, take some responsibility.
But I think politics has changed hugely, and I think Ben and I would probably agree on this, in the last 25 years, particularly.
For the worse.
Whether it's for the worse or not, it has changed across the world. We are more linked geopolitically than we ever were. There are...
But we shouldn't be. That's the
globalism,
point.
Isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But there are other things, whether it's, war, whether it's famine, whether it's COVID, whatever it is, there are other things going on that mean we have got to do, and have always had to do, alliances with people who may not necessarily be our thing. But I do think it is right that the Labour Party address this issue, because there's no point in the Labour Party or the Liberal Democrats or anybody else sitting there wringing their hands. And what we see is Kemi Badenoch desperately chasing reform, trying to out-reform and suck up to Trump, ignoring the One Nation Tories, who you could say were slightly paternalistic.
If you have to tell your cabinet, don't talk down to people, you've got the wrong cabinet.
You've got the wrong cabinet, you've got the wrong form of governance, and as I know you know this, Bev, because you've been on this subject absolutely spot on throughout lockdown and since, is that we've got a government that actually infantilises the population. They locked us up. They told us we couldn't make our own decisions. They forced us to have vaccines. They broke
Not
the economy.
this government, Ben.
They broke the economy on the back of it. They broke the economy on the back of it. They want identity cards. They just removed Apple's ability to refuse GCHQ's interference in our private matters.
Literally at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Banks are ever more intrusive into our private affairs. They want a central bank digital currency. This government is heading right towards complete control.
And we wonder why we've got a generation of young people who say, rule me harder, take away my freedoms, control me. We wonder why that's happened 5 years on.